The handcuffs bit into Hannah Carter's wrists as Officer Dalton shoved her through the precinct doors. Blood smeared her scrubs, not hers. The waiting room fell silent. A woman with a dislocated shoulder stared. A drunk in the corner stopped mid-shout. Hannah's face was swollen, one eye half closed, but she didn't lower her gaze. She'd seen worse, done worse, survived worse. "Another junkie nurse," Dalton announced to the room, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Caught stealing morphine from Mercy Ridge General. They always think they're smarter than the system." Hannah said nothing. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere behind the booking desk, a computer pinged, once, twice, 3 times. A younger officer glanced at the screen, frowned, then looked at Hannah with something that wasn't quite recognition. More like confusion. Concern, maybe. "Sarge," the younger officer started. "The system's flagging her name. It says—" "I don't care what it says," Dalton snapped. "Book her." The steel door to the holding cells slammed shut behind her, and in that moment, the entire Riverside Police Department made a mistake that would cost them everything. Before we dive into what happens next, I need you to do something for me. Follow this story all the way to the end, because what you're about to hear isn't just about one nurse. It's about what happens when the people who think they're untouchable finally meet someone they can't break. Drop a comment with the city you're watching from. I want to see how far Hannah's story travels. Hit like if you're ready for the truth. Now let's rewind 12 hours and show you exactly how we got here. 12 hours earlier, the hospital smelled like disinfectant and desperation. Hannah Carter moved through the ER like water through cracks. Smooth, efficient, unseen until you needed her. A kid with a broken arm. An elderly man struggling to breathe. A woman who'd been beaten so badly her own daughter didn't recognize her. Hannah treated them all the same, with steady hands and a voice that didn't shake. "You're going to be okay," she told the woman, cleaning the gash above her eyebrow. "I've got you." The woman's fingers gripped Hannah's wrist. "My husband did this. I know. He'll do it again." Hannah met her eyes. "Not if you let me help you leave." The woman's grip loosened. She looked away. She always looked away. Hannah had learned years ago that you couldn't force someone to save themselves. You could only hold the door open and hope they'd walk through it. Dr. Richard Bellamy appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand, expression carved from stone. He was 53, silver-haired, and carried himself like a man who'd never been told no in his life. Behind him stood 2 security guards Hannah didn't recognize. "Nurse Carter," Bellamy said. "My office. Now." Hannah finished taping the woman's bandage. "I'm with a patient. Now." The ER had that particular kind of silence that comes right before something breaks. Hannah stood, stripped off her gloves, and followed Bellamy down the hallway. The security guards fell in behind her. Their boots were too heavy, their shoulders too stiff. These weren't hospital rent-a-cops. These were something else. Bellamy's office was on the 4th floor behind a door that required a key card and a thumbprint. The walls were lined with awards, commendations, photos of Bellamy shaking hands with senators and mayors. In one corner sat a mahogany desk that probably cost more than Hannah made in 6 months. "Sit," Bellamy said. Hannah remained standing. Bellamy's jaw tightened. He gestured to the guards, who moved to flank the door. "We have a problem, Nurse Carter, a very serious problem." "Which is?" "Medication discrepancies. Specifically, morphine, fentanyl, and oxycodone, missing from the pharmacy over the past 3 months. The logs show your keycard was used to access the secure cabinet on 17 separate occasions during off hours." Hannah's expression didn't change. "I work off hours. That's when trauma cases come in. Not according to the ER schedule. I stay late, I come in early, I cover for people, check the sign-in sheets." Bellamy smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "I did. Funny thing, those sheets seem to have gone missing too, along with the security footage from the pharmacy. All we have left are the digital logs, and they paint a very clear picture." Hannah's pulse didn't spike. Her breathing didn't quicken. She'd been in tighter spots than this. Insurgents in Kandahar, firefights in Mosul. A hospital administrator with a God complex didn't even register. "You're framing me," she said quietly. "I'm protecting this hospital," Bellamy shot back. "From liability. From scandal. from nurses who think they can steal controlled substances and play hero on the side. I didn't steal anything. Then you won't mind if we call the police. Hannah took one step forward. The guards tensed. You already called them, didn't you? Bellamy's smile widened. The knock on the door came exactly on cue. Too perfect. Too practiced. The guards opened it, and Officer Marcus Dalton stepped inside, thumbs hooked in his belt, badge gleaming under the fluorescent lights. He looked at Hannah the way a cat looks at a mouse. Dr. Bellamy, Dalton said, you reported a theft? I did. This is Hannah Carter. She's been stealing medication from our pharmacy for months. We have digital proof. Dalton pulled out a notepad. Miss Carter, you want to make this easy and confess now, or do we do this the hard way? Hannah looked at Bellamy, then at Dalton, then at the guards, who were watching her with the kind of hunger that came from men who enjoyed watching people break. I want a lawyer, she said. Dalton laughed. Sure. You can call one from the station, hands behind your back. The cuffs were cold, tight. Dalton jerked her arms hard enough to make her shoulder pop, then shoved her toward the door. The hallway outside was full of people, nurses, orderlies, patients, families. They all stopped to stare as Hannah was paraded through like a criminal. Make way, Dalton announced. Drug thief coming through. A nurse Hannah had trained, Emily Zhao, 24, still green but learning, stepped forward. Wait, what's happening? Hannah wouldn't... Step back, ma'am, Dalton said. She's one of the best nurses we have. She saved my life during that pileup last month. You can't just... Dalton's hand went to his baton. Step back. Emily's face went pale, but she didn't move. Not until Hannah looked at her and gave the smallest shake of her head. Emily's eyes filled with tears. She stepped back. Hannah was dragged through the lobby, past the security desk, out the automatic doors into the parking lot where 2 squad cars waited, lights flashing. A small crowd had gathered. Phones came out. Videos started recording. Dalton made a show of it, pushing her head down as he shoved her into the back seat, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Then he leaned against the car and grinned at the cameras. Another criminal off the streets, he said to no one in particular. You're welcome, Riverside. The car smelled like sweat and piss. The seat was cracked vinyl, stained with things Hannah didn't want to identify. Through the window, she could see Bellamy standing in the hospital entrance, arms crossed, watching. Satisfied. The drive to the precinct took 11 minutes. Dalton spent most of it on his phone, talking to someone in a low voice. Hannah caught fragments. Yeah, she's secure. Bellamy says she's been poking around. Don't worry, we'll make sure she keeps quiet. At the precinct, they processed her like livestock. Fingerprints, mugshot, personal effects confiscated, wallet, keys, phone. They took her scrubs and gave her an orange jumpsuit 2 sizes too big. The booking officer was a woman in her 40s with dead eyes and a mouth that had forgotten how to smile. Name: Hannah Louise Carter. Age: 37. Occupation: registered nurse, trauma specialist. The officer's fingers paused over the keyboard. She looked up. Military? Hannah said nothing. The officer's screen blinked. A notification appeared in the corner, red text, flashing. The officer squinted at it, frowned, then clicked it away quickly. Too quickly. Like she'd seen something she wasn't supposed to see and wanted to pretend she hadn't. You got any medical conditions we need to know about? The officer asked, her voice a little tighter now. No. Allergies? No. Next of kin? Hannah's jaw tightened. None. The officer printed out a form, shoved it across the desk. Sign here, Yick. Hannah signed. The officer filed it without looking at it, then nodded to a guard. Cell block C. Put her with the usual crowd. The holding cell was 8 feet by 10 feet, concrete walls, steel bench, toilet in the corner with no seat. 3 other women were already inside. One passed out on the floor, one rocking back and forth muttering to herself, one sitting on the bench with a face full of bruises and a look that said she'd stopped caring a long time ago. The guard shoved Hannah inside and locked the door. Welcome to paradise, the bruised woman said. Her voice was rough, sandpaper over gravel. Hannah sat down on the floor, back against the wall, knees pulled up. The woman on the bench watched her for a moment, then looked away. Time passed. Hours, maybe. It was hard to tell. No windows, no clock, just the hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional scream from another cell. The woman who'd been muttering started crying. The one on the floor didn't move. Hannah closed her eyes and breathed. In for 4. Hold for 4. Out for 4. The same technique she'd used in Kandahar when the mortars hit, in Mosul when the medevac couldn't land, in Baltimore when her entire unit fell apart and she was the only one left standing. The bruised woman spoke again. "What'd you do?" Hannah opened her eyes. "Nothing. Everyone in here did nothing." The woman's laugh was bitter. "I did nothing when my boyfriend beat the shit out of me. Did nothing when he sold my car. Did nothing when he stole my kid's birthday money. But when I finally fought back, when I finally put a knife between us, suddenly, I'm the criminal." Hannah looked at her, really looked. The bruises were fresh, purple around the edges, yellow in the centers. Her left eye was swollen shut. Her lip was split. "Did they arrest him?" Hannah asked. "Nope. Gave him a handshake and sent him home." The woman wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "System's rigged. Rich people get lawyers, poor people get cages." The woman who'd been passed out on the floor stirred, groaned, then vomited. Nobody moved to help her. The smell filled the cell, sour, acidic. Hannah's stomach turned, but she kept her breathing steady. "You really didn't do anything?" the bruised woman asked. "I asked questions," Hannah said. "Wrong questions, wrong people." "Who?" "People who don't like being questioned." The woman nodded slowly. "Yeah, I know the type." Footsteps approached. The lock rattled. The door opened. Officer Dalton stood there with another cop, a younger guy, maybe 30, with nervous eyes and a hand that kept drifting to his gun. His nameplate read, Officer Torres. "Up," Dalton said. Hannah stood. Dalton grabbed her arm, yanked her out of the cell, and marched her down the hallway to an interrogation room. It was smaller than the cell. Table bolted to the floor. 2 chairs. Mirror on one wall. Camera in the corner, red light blinking. "Sit." Hannah sat. Dalton took the other chair. Torres stood by the door, arms crossed, trying to look tough and failing. His eyes kept darting to the mirror like he was waiting for someone to tell him what to do. Dalton leaned back, laced his fingers behind his head. "You know what I think, Hannah? I think you're smart. Smarter than most of the trash we pull in here. You know how this works. You know you're screwed. The evidence is airtight. Bellamy's got logs, timestamps, everything. You're looking at felony theft, fraud, maybe even distribution if we dig deep enough. That's 10 years minimum." Hannah said nothing. "But here's the thing," Dalton continued. "I'm a reasonable guy. You cooperate. Tell us who you were selling to. Maybe we can knock it down to probation. Community service. You keep your license, stay out of jail, go back to playing Florence Nightingale. Everybody wins." "I didn't steal anything," Hannah said. Dalton's smile vanished. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Don't be stupid. We've got you dead to rights. Confess now, or I'll make sure you rot in here." "I want my lawyer." Dalton's hand slammed down on the table. Torres flinched. "You don't get a lawyer until I say you get a lawyer. Right now, you're just a junkie nurse who got caught with her hand in the cookie jar. Nobody cares about you. Nobody's coming to save you, so stop pretending you're special and start talking." Hannah looked him dead in the eye. "You just made the worst mistake of your career." Dalton laughed, a real laugh, head thrown back, like she'd told the funniest joke he'd ever heard. "Yeah? And what are you going to do about it? Call your congressman? File a complaint? You think anyone gives a damn about some nobody nurse with a hero complex?" Hannah didn't answer. She just held his gaze. Steady, unblinking. Dalton's laughter died. Something flickered in his eyes. Uncertainty, maybe. Or the first cold whisper of fear. Torres cleared his throat. Sarge? Maybe we should—" "Shut up, Torres." The door opened. A man stepped inside. Tall, 50s, wearing a suit that cost more than Dalton made in a month. He had the kind of face that didn't smile. The kind of eyes that had seen too much and remembered all of it. "Officer Dalton," the man said. His voice was quiet, controlled, with an edge that could cut glass. "Step outside." Dalton stood, puffed out his chest. "Who the hell are you?" The man pulled out a badge, federal badge. The letters FBI gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Special Agent Garrett Hale, he said. This interview is over. The color drained from Dalton's face. He looked at Hannah, then at Hale, then back at Hannah, and for the first time she saw real fear in his eyes. She's our suspect, Dalton said, but his voice had lost its edge. You're in the middle of obstructing a federal investigation, Hale said. Now step outside before I add you to the list of people I'm arresting tonight. Dalton's mouth opened, closed. He looked at Torres, who was already halfway out the door. Then he followed, muttering something under his breath about jurisdiction and protocol. Hale waited until the door closed, then turned to Hannah. Lieutenant Carter. Hannah didn't move. Hale pulled out a chair and sat down. He set a folder on the table, opened it, then turned it so Hannah could see. Inside were photographs. Bellamy shaking hands with Mayor Gregory Preston. Dalton standing outside a warehouse with 3 men in suits. Bank records. Wire transfers. Emails with subject lines like medication procurement and distribution schedule. I know you're wondering what took us so long, Hale said. Short answer. We've been building this case for 8 months. Bellamy, Preston, half the city council, a dozen cops, 2 judges. They've been running opioids through Mercy Ridge for 3 years. Stealing from the pharmacy, writing fake prescriptions, distributing through street dealers. Made millions. And when people started asking questions, they disappeared. Hannah's hands clenched into fists under the table. How many people? 7 that we know of. Nurses, mostly. 1 pharmacist. They all filed complaints. Internal reviews. Nothing happened. Then they quit, or got fired, or just vanished. And you let it keep happening. Hale's jaw tightened. We needed evidence, real evidence, the kind that sticks, so we sent you in. Hannah leaned back. The chair creaked. You used me as bait. We gave you a mission, Hale corrected. Infiltrate Mercy Ridge, document the fraud, report back. You did your job. Better than we expected, actually. You found connections we didn't know existed. Preston's offshore accounts, Dalton's distribution network. You cracked this thing wide open. And then they arrested me. They panicked, which means we move up the timeline. Hale leaned forward. We go tonight. 3 a.m., full tactical, FBI, DEA, state police. We hit the hospital, the precinct, city hall, all at once. Bellamy, Dalton, Preston, the whole network. By sunrise, they'll all be in cuffs. Hannah's hands were shaking. She clenched them into fists. They humiliated me. Paraded me through the hospital like a criminal. Put me in a cage with women who've given up. I know. They're still out there. Right now. Free. Laughing. Hale's expression softened, just a fraction. Not for long. Hannah closed her eyes. She could still smell the vomit from the cell. Still feel Dalton's hand on her arm, shoving her through the precinct. Still see Emily's face, pale and terrified, as the guards forced her back. When she opened her eyes again, her voice was steady. What do you need from me? Nothing. You've done enough. We'll get you out of here, put you in protective custody until... No. Hale frowned. Lieutenant, I stay. I see this through. I want to be there when you take them down. Hale studied her for a long moment. His eyes were gray, sharp, the kind that missed nothing. Finally, he nodded. All right. But you follow our lead. No heroics, no vendettas. We do this clean. Clean, Hannah repeated. Hale stood, buttoned his jacket. 3 a.m. Get some rest if you can. It's going to be a long night. He knocked on the door. It opened. A female agent stepped inside, young, maybe 30, with short, dark hair and eyes that cataloged everything in half a second. Agent Reyes will take you to a secure room, Hale said. You'll be more comfortable there. Hannah stood. Her legs were stiff, her back sore from sitting on concrete. Reyes led her down a different hallway, past offices and conference rooms, to a small room with a cot, a sink, and a window that actually had glass. There's water in the fridge, Reyes said. Bathroom's next door. You need anything? Knock twice. Hannah nodded. Reyes left, locking the door behind her. But it was a different kind of lock. The kind that kept people out, not in. Hannah sat on the cot and looked at her hands. They were still shaking. She'd treated gunshot wounds without shaking, performed field amputations without shaking. But sitting in that cell, listening to a woman talk about how the system had failed her, how it always failed people like them that had gotten under her skin. She lay back on the cot and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere in this building, Dalton was probably making calls, trying to figure out what the hell just happened. Somewhere across town, Bellamy was pouring himself a drink, confident that the problem had been solved. And somewhere in City Hall, Mayor Gregory Preston was probably asleep, dreaming of re-election campaigns and ribbon-cutting ceremonies, completely unaware that his entire world was about to collapse. 3 a.m. was 5.5 hours away. Hannah closed her eyes and let herself drift. At 11 p.m., Mayor Preston sat in his home office, a glass of bourbon in one hand and his phone in the other. The house was quiet. His wife had gone to bed hours ago. His kids were away at college. It was just him and the city lights glittering through the window like broken promises. His phone buzzed. Text from Bellamy. Package secured. No complications. Preston smiled. Another problem solved. Another loose end tied off. The city ran smoothly when people knew their place. Nurses who asked too many questions, cops who got greedy, reporters who dug too deep. They all learned eventually. Or they disappeared. He'd been mayor for 12 years. 12 years of cutting ribbons, shaking hands, kissing babies. 12 years of smiling for cameras while the real work happened in back rooms and private meetings. The city loved him. Approval ratings through the roof, his face on billboards, his name on schools and parks. Nobody asked where the money came from. Nobody cared as long as the potholes got filled and the trash got picked up. His phone buzzed again. Different number. Unknown. He frowned. Opened it. We know everything. 3 a.m. See you soon. Preston stared at the message. His hand tightened around the phone. He deleted the message, blocked the number, and poured himself another drink. Probably some crank. Some disgruntled city employee with a bone to pick. Still, the timing was odd. He pulled up his contacts, found Dalton's number, and dialed. It rang. And rang. And rang. Voicemail. Preston tried again. Same result. He set the phone down and took a long drink. The bourbon burned. He liked the burn. It reminded him he was alive. Outside, the city slept. Riverside, jewel of the eastern seaboard, where the river met the bay and money flowed like water. Preston had built this city. Shaped it. Owned it. One nurse wasn't going to take that away. He finished his drink, turned off the lights, and went to bed. At midnight, Hannah woke to the sound of footsteps. She sat up, instantly alert. The door opened. Agent Reyes stepped inside, carrying a duffel bag. Time to get ready, Reyes said. Hannah swung her legs off the cot. Reyes set the bag on the floor and unzipped it. Inside were clothes, jeans, black t-shirt, jacket, boots, a Kevlar vest with FBI stenciled across the back. You're not going in as an agent, Reyes said, but you're going in protected. Hannah changed quickly, shedding the orange jumpsuit like a second skin. The clothes fit well. The boots were broken in. The vest was heavier than she remembered, but solid. Real. Reyes handed her a phone. Burner. Hale's number is programmed in. Anything goes wrong, you call. Hannah pocketed the phone. You ever been part of a federal raid? Reyes asked. I've been in worse, Hannah said. Reyes almost smiled. I bet you have. Come on, briefing's in 10. They walked through the precinct to a conference room on the second floor. The room was full. FBI agents, DEA, state troopers, all in tactical gear, all focused on a map spread across the table. Riverside divided into sectors. Red circles marked targets. Mercy Ridge General, City Hall. The precinct. A dozen addresses scattered across the city. Hale stood at the head of the table. When Hannah entered, every head turned. Some of the agents nodded. Others just stared. They knew who she was, what she'd done. All right, listen up, Hale said. At 0300, we move simultaneously on all targets. Federal warrants have been issued. This is a multi-agency operation. FBI takes lead on City Hall and Mercy Ridge. DEA handles the warehouse district. State police secures the precinct. We go in hard, we go in fast, and we go in clean. No leaks. No warnings. As of right now, all communication with Riverside PD is suspended. Anyone tries to make a call, you shut them down. He pointed to the map. Bellamy's at home. We have eyes on him. Preston's at home. We have eyes on him. Dalton's here in the building. We'll handle him last. Questions? A DEA agent raised his hand. What about resistance? Expect it. These people have money, connections, and a lot to lose, but we have the law, and we have the truth. Hale looked around the room. This operation ends a criminal enterprise that's been running for 3 years. Drugs, fraud, corruption at every level. 7 people are dead because they tried to stop it. Tonight, we finish what they started. The room was silent. Hale checked his watch. It's 12:15. We roll in 2 hours and 45 minutes. Get your gear. Check your comms. Stay sharp. The agents dispersed. Hannah stayed where she was. Hale walked over. You ready? He asked. I've been ready, Hannah said. Hale nodded. You're riding with Reyes. You stay in the vehicle unless I give the all clear. Understood? Understood. Carter. Hale's voice dropped. I know what they did to you. I know you want payback. But this has to be by the book. We do this right, they spend the rest of their lives in prison. We do this wrong, they walk. Hannah met his eyes. I'm not here for payback. I'm here for justice. Good, because justice is the only thing that'll stick. At 1 a.m., the convoy assembled. Black SUVs, armored vans, unmarked sedans, engines idled, radios crackled. Hannah sat in the back of an SUV with Reyes behind the wheel and 2 other agents in tactical gear. Nobody spoke. The air was tight, coiled, ready to snap. Hale's voice came through the radio. All units, comms check. One by one, the teams checked in. City Hall team, hospital team, warehouse team, precinct team. Copy all, Hale said. Stand by. The minutes crawled. Hannah watched the dashboard clock tick over. 1:15, 1:30, 1:45. At 2 a.m., Hale's voice came through again. All units, begin approach. Maintain radio silence until go signal. The convoy split. Half went north toward City Hall. A quarter went west toward the warehouse district. The rest headed east toward Mercy Ridge General. Hannah's SUV was in the hospital group. They drove in silence through empty streets, past closed storefronts and darkened apartments. Riverside looked peaceful, clean, safe. It was a lie. At 2:45, they parked 3 blocks from the hospital. Reyes killed the engine. The agents checked their weapons, adjusted their vests. Hannah sat still, breathing slowly. Reyes glanced back at her. You okay? Hannah nodded. You don't look okay. I'm fine. You're about to watch the people who destroyed your life get arrested. That's not fine. That's complicated. Hannah looked out the window. The hospital was visible in the distance, lit up like a beacon. Mercy Ridge General. She'd worked there for 8 months. Saved lives there. Watched people die there. And all the while, underneath the sterile floors and fluorescent lights, a machine had been running, grinding up people, spitting out money, destroying anyone who got in the way. I'm fine, Hannah said again. Reyes didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. At 2:55, Hale's voice crackled through the radio. All units, final check. The responses came in fast. Everyone was in position. At 2:59, the world held its breath. At 3 a.m., Hale said one word. Go. The city exploded. Sirens screamed to life. Flashing lights lit up the darkness. Helicopter rotors thumped overhead. Hannah watched through the SUV window as a dozen federal vehicles surrounded Mercy Ridge General. Agents pouring out, weapons drawn, shouting commands. FBI, federal warrant, nobody moves. The hospital's front doors burst open. Agents flooded inside. Through the windows, Hannah could see people being pulled from offices, pushed to the ground, cuffed. Security guards with their hands up, nurses screaming, patients confused, terrified. Reyes's radio crackled. Hospital secure, Bellamy in custody. Repeat, Bellamy in custody. Reyes glanced at Hannah. That's one. Hannah's phone buzzed. Text from Hale. City Hall secure, Preston in custody. 2. Another text, this one from a number she didn't recognize. Warehouse district clear, 12 arrests. The radio lit up with voices. Teams calling in from across the city. Suspects secured. Evidence seized. Warrants executed. And then, from somewhere close, Reyes's radio crackled again. Precinct team to command. We have a problem. Hale's voice came back sharp. Define problem. Dalton's gone. Repeat. Suspect Dalton is not on premises. Vehicle's gone. We're checking security footage now. Silence. Then Hale. Find him. Lock down a 5-mile radius. I want every unit looking. Reyes cursed under her breath. She looked at Hannah. Stay here. Where are you going? To help find a dirty cop. Reyes opened her door, then paused. Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone but me or Hale. She got out. The other 2 agents followed. Hannah was alone. She sat in the back seat, phone in her hand, and waited. Outside, the city burned with flashing lights and sirens. Riverside was being torn apart, one arrest at a time. The machine was being dismantled, the lies exposed. But Dalton was still out there. Hannah's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She opened the text. You think you won? You think this is over? I'm coming for you. Hannah stared at the message. Her heart didn't race. Her hands didn't shake. She'd been threatened by better people. Scarier people. She typed back. Come find me. Then she put the phone in her pocket, checked the SUV's locks, and waited. 3 blocks away, Marcus Dalton sat in his car, parked in an alley, phone in hand. He'd seen the convoy roll in, seen the lights, heard the sirens. He knew what was happening. They'd come for him. But he'd been in this game long enough to have a backup plan. Cash in the trunk, fake ID in the glove box, and a gun under the seat. He wasn't going down, not without a fight. He started the engine and pulled out of the alley, headlights off, moving slow through the dark streets. He knew this city better than anyone, every alley, every shortcut, every place to hide. They wanted a chase, he'd give them a chase. But first he had one stop to make, the nurse who'd ruined everything. He was going to finish what should have been finished hours ago. Hannah watched Dalton's text glow on her screen for 3 seconds before deleting it. The SUV's interior smelled like coffee and gun oil. Outside, the chaos continued, agents shouting, radios crackling, helicopter searchlights carving white circles through the dark. She could see the hospital entrance from here, could see people being led out in handcuffs, could see the empire crumbling in real time. But Dalton was still out there, hunting. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Hale. Stay in the vehicle. Dalton's armed and mobile. Every unit's looking. Hannah typed back. He texted me. Threatening. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Forward the number. Don't engage. He's desperate. She forwarded the screenshot, then pocketed the phone and scanned the street. Empty cars, dark windows, shadows that could be anything. The SUV's locks were engaged, but locks only worked if you trusted them. Hannah had seen too many doors kicked in to trust anything. 5 blocks north, Dalton turned onto Merchant Street and killed his headlights. His hands were steady on the wheel. His breathing was controlled. He'd been a cop for 19 years, 12 of them dirty, but who was counting? He knew how to disappear, knew how to hunt, and right now he was doing both. The feds would be looking for his car, so he'd ditch it soon. But first he needed leverage. Something to trade, someone to blame. And Hannah Carter was the perfect candidate, a nurse with a hero complex who'd stuck her nose where it didn't belong. She'd started this. She could end it too, one way or another. He pulled into a parking garage 2 blocks from the federal staging area, took the stairs to the 3rd level, and found a maintenance van with the keys in the ignition. People in Riverside were trusting, stupid but trusting. He switched vehicles, pulled a baseball cap low over his face, and headed back toward the hospital. Hannah's phone buzzed. Reyes. Movement 2 blocks east. Possible suspect vehicle. Stay locked. Hannah didn't respond. She watched the street, counted her breaths, and waited. The minutes stretched. A patrol car rolled past, lights off, moving slow, then another. They were tightening the net. A flash of movement caught her eye. Someone crossing between buildings, moving fast. Too fast. She leaned forward, trying to get a better look, but they were gone. Her phone rang. Hale. We've got him on traffic cams, Hale said without preamble. He switched vehicles. Maintenance van, white, no plates visible. He's circling your area. He's looking for me, Hannah said. I know. We're pulling you out. Reyes is en route. No. Silence on the line. Carter. He wants me. Give him me. Use me as bait. Absolutely not. You're a civilian. I'm a combat medic with 3 tours and a federal asset. Let me do my job. Hale's exhale crackled through the phone. Your job was intelligence gathering. It's done. My job isn't done until he's in cuffs. Hannah's voice was flat, final. He humiliated me, arrested me, put me in a cage. Now he's threatening me. So either you use me to draw him out, or I step out of this vehicle and do it myself. Another pause, longer this time. You don't follow orders well, Hale said. Never have. A beat. Then, all right, but you wear a wire, and the second we have visual, you get clear, non-negotiable. Deal. 10 minutes later, Reyes was back at the SUV with a wire kit and a Glock 19. Hannah stripped off her jacket, let Reyes tape the microphone to her ribs, then put the jacket back on. The gun went in a holster at her hip. You know how to use this? Reyes asked. Better than you, Hannah said. Reyes almost smiled. Hale's losing his mind right now, you know. This is against every protocol. Good thing I don't work for him. Technically, you do. Hannah checked the Glock's magazine, chambered around, and safetied it. Technically, I'm bait. Reyes handed her an earpiece. Hale and I will be on comms. There are 4 teams in a 3-block radius. You see Dalton? You stall him. We'll close in. Do not engage. Do not be a hero. Just keep him talking. I know the drill. Have you done this before? Hannah thought of Kandahar. Mosul. The night her convoy got ambushed and she spent 4 hours talking a Taliban fighter out of detonating a bomb. Once or twice? Reyes studied her for a moment, then nodded. All right, let's get you set. Hannah stepped out of the SUV. The night air was cold, sharp. She could smell the river 3 blocks south, salt and diesel and rotting fish. The hospital was still lit up like a stadium, federal vehicles everywhere, agents moving in and out. But the street where she stood was dark, quiet, perfect for an ambush. She started walking. Hale's voice came through the earpiece. We've got eyes on you. Dalton's van was spotted on 4th and Brennan 2 minutes ago, heading your direction. Hannah kept walking, hands in her pockets, pace steady. She looked like a woman going nowhere in particular, just another face in a city full of them. He's turning onto your street, Hale said. White van, moving slow. ETA 30 seconds. Hannah stopped under a streetlight, made herself visible. The wire itched against her ribs. The Glock was heavy at her hip. Headlights appeared at the end of the block. White van. No plates. It slowed as it approached, then stopped 20 feet away. The engine idled. Nobody got out. Hannah waited. The driver's door opened. Dalton stepped out. He was still in uniform, but his badge was gone. His gun was in his hand, held low against his thigh. He looked tired, angry, cornered. Well, Dalton said, look who finally showed up. Hannah didn't move. You were looking for me. Yeah, I was. He took a step forward. Funny how things work out. You spend months pretending to be some nobody nurse. Turns out you're federal. And I spend years pretending to be a good cop. Turns out I'm not. We're both liars, Hannah. Difference is, I'm the one with the gun. You've got a gun, Hannah said. I count 4 sniper rifles pointed at your head. Dalton smiled. Bluffing doesn't suit you. Neither does running. His smile faded. He raised the gun, pointed it at her chest. You ruined everything. My career, my life, my retirement plan. All because you couldn't mind your own business. Hannah's pulse was steady. Her hands were still in her pockets. You ruined it yourself. I just documented it. Semantics. He took another step, 15 feet now. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get in the van. We're going to drive somewhere quiet. And you're going to tell your Fed friends that this was all a mistake, that I'm innocent, that Bellamy set me up. They won't believe me. They will if you're convincing, and you will be convincing because if you're not, I'll put a bullet in your spine and leave you in a ditch. Hale's voice in her ear. Stall him. Teams are moving in. Hannah took her hands out of her pockets, slowly. You really think you're getting out of this? They've got Bellamy. They've got Preston. They've got bank records, wire transfers, surveillance footage. You're done, Dalton. You ran the second you heard sirens. That's not the move of an innocent man. Dalton's jaw tightened. I'm a survivor. Always have been. And survivors do what they have to do. Is that what you told the 7 people who disappeared? That you were just surviving? His gun hand twitched. Those people made choices. Bad choices. They should have kept their mouths shut. Like, you're keeping yours shut right now? I'm having a conversation. You're confessing. Dalton blinked. His eyes flicked to her jacket, to the slight bulge where the wire was taped. His face went white, then red. You're wired, he said. Yeah. You... He raised the gun higher, aimed at her face. You stupid... 3 red dots appeared on his chest. Laser sights. Sniper teams. Drop it, Dalton, Hale's voice boomed from somewhere in the dark. You're surrounded. Put the weapon down and get on the ground. Dalton didn't move. His finger was on the trigger. His eyes were on Hannah. Do it, Hannah said quietly. It's over. For a moment, she thought he might. His hand shook. His breathing hitched. He looked like a man standing on the edge of a cliff, deciding whether to jump. Then he lunged. Not at her. At the van. He fired twice as he ran, wild shots that hit nothing. Hannah dropped to the ground. Gunfire erupted from every direction. Sniper shots, rifle bursts, the sharp crack of pistols. Dalton made it to the van's door before a bullet caught him in the shoulder. He spun, hit the ground, gun skittering away. Agents swarmed from every shadow, tactical teams in full gear, weapons trained, shouting commands. Don't move! Hands where we can see them! Dalton writhed on the pavement, clutching his shoulder, blood seeping through his fingers. His face was twisted in pain and rage. I'm hit! I'm hit! You're under arrest, Hale said, stepping into the light. He looked at Dalton the way you'd look at a cockroach. Marcus Dalton, you're charged with corruption, drug trafficking, conspiracy to commit murder, and about 15 other felonies I'll list while they patch you up. 2 paramedics rushed forward, started working on Dalton's shoulder. He cursed at them, tried to pull away, but they held him down. Hale nodded to an agent who slapped cuffs on Dalton's wrists. Hannah got to her feet. Her ears were ringing. Her hands were shaking now, adrenaline finally catching up. Reyes appeared at her side, pulling the wire off, checking her for injuries. You good? Reyes asked. Hannah nodded. She wasn't sure it was true, but she nodded anyway. Hale walked over. That was reckless. It worked. It worked because we had 3 sniper teams and a guardian angel watching over you. If one thing had gone wrong, it didn't. Hale looked like he wanted to argue, but he just shook his head. Come on, we're clearing the scene. I need you debriefed before the sun comes up. They put Dalton in an ambulance, cuffed to the gurney, an agent riding with him. Hannah watched the doors close, watched the ambulance pull away, lights flashing. 3 down. Bellamy, Preston, Dalton. The holy trinity of corruption. But corruption was never just 3 people. It was a network, a web. And webs didn't die when you killed the spider. You had to burn the whole thing. The debrief happened in a federal building downtown, in a windowless room with a table, 2 chairs, and a recorder. Hale sat across from Hannah, a legal pad in front of him, a pen in his hand. Start from the beginning, he said. How you got recruited. What your mission was. Everything. Hannah talked for 2 hours. She told him about the FBI approaching her 8 months ago, about the offer to go undercover, about the training and the cover story, and the slow, methodical process of infiltrating Mercy Ridge General. She told him about the patients she'd treated, the nurses she'd befriended, the evidence she'd gathered one piece at a time. She told him about the night she realized the corruption went higher than Bellamy, higher than the hospital, all the way to City Hall. Hale took notes, asked questions, cross-referenced her story with reports and files stacked on the table. When she finished, he leaned back and rubbed his eyes. You did good work, Carter. Better than good. We've been after Preston for 2 years. Bellamy for 18 months. We never had enough to move until you cracked the financial trail. How many others are you arresting? 23 so far. Cops, hospital administrators, city officials, street dealers. We'll probably hit 30 by the end of the week. He closed his notepad. This is the biggest corruption case in Riverside's history. Maybe the state's history. You just took down a criminal empire. Hannah didn't feel victorious. She felt tired, hollowed out. What about the 7 people who disappeared? Hale's expression darkened. We're opening investigations into all of them. Now that we've got Dalton and Bellamy in custody, we'll start offering deals. Someone will talk. Someone always talks. And if they don't, then we dig until we find the bodies. The words hung in the air. Hannah thought of the woman in the holding cell, the one with the bruised face, and the story about a system that didn't care. 7 people had tried to stop this. 7 people had vanished, and for 3 years nobody had cared enough to ask why. I want their names, Hannah said. The 7. I want to know who they were. Hale hesitated, then nodded. He pulled a file from the stack and slid it across the table. Take it. It's all we have. Hannah opened the file. 7 faces stared back at her. 3 women, 4 men. Ages ranging from 26 to 52. Nurses mostly. 1 pharmacist, 1 orderly. Each one had filed a complaint. Each one had asked questions. Each one had disappeared. Sarah Kemper, 34, mother of 2. Last seen leaving Mercy Ridge after her shift. Car found abandoned near the river. Miguel Ortega, 28, engaged to be married. Filed a report about missing medications. Never showed up to work again. Claire Donovan, 41, single mother. Told a friend she had proof of fraud. Friend never heard from her again. Hannah read every name, memorized every face. I'll find them, she said. That's not your job anymore, Hale said gently. You've done enough. It's not enough until they're found. Hale didn't argue. He knew better. All right, but not tonight. Tonight you go to a safe house. You get some sleep. Tomorrow we'll talk about next steps. Hannah closed the file. I'm not hiding. It's not hiding. It's protection. You just helped us arrest half the city's power structure. There are people out there who aren't happy about that. People with money and connections and a grudge. Let them come. Hale's expression softened. Carter, you're exhausted. You've been running on adrenaline for 12 hours. Let us do our job. Let us keep you safe. Hannah wanted to argue, wanted to walk out of the building and disappear into the city. But Hale was right. She was exhausted, bone-deep, soul-crushing exhaustion that no amount of coffee or willpower could fix. One night, she said. One night, Hale agreed. They took her to a safe house in the suburbs, a nondescript ranch-style home with bars on the windows and 2 agents stationed outside. Inside, it was clean and impersonal. Beige walls, standard furniture, a fridge stocked with water and sandwiches. Reyes walked her through the house, showed her the bedroom, the bathroom, the panic button by the door. You need anything? You call, Reyes said. I'll be outside. Hannah nodded. Reyes left. The door locked behind her. Hannah stood in the middle of the living room and tried to remember the last time she'd been alone. Really alone. Not in a cell, not in a war zone, just alone. She walked to the bathroom, turned on the shower, and stood under the water until it ran cold. She scrubbed the holding cell off her skin, the precinct off her hands, the last 8 months off her body. When she finally stepped out, her skin was raw and her fingers were pruned. She put on the clothes Reyes had left, sweatpants, a t-shirt, socks, civilian clothes, normal clothes. They felt wrong. She lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Her mind wouldn't stop. Bellamy's face, Dalton's gun, the woman in the cell, the 7 missing people. Her phone buzzed. She'd almost forgotten she had it. Unknown number. She opened the message. You think you're safe? You think this is over? We're watching. Hannah stared at the screen. Her pulse didn't spike. Her hands didn't shake. She took a screenshot, sent it to Hale, then blocked the number. 5 seconds later, another message. Different number. You made a lot of enemies tonight. Screenshot. Send. Block. Another message. Sleep tight, Hannah. She turned the phone off, put it on the nightstand, closed her eyes. Sleep didn't come. Instead, she counted the ceiling tiles, listened to the agents outside talking in low voices, thought about Sarah Kemper and Miguel Ortega and Claire Donovan and the 4 others whose faces she'd memorized. Somewhere in this city, someone knew where they were. Someone knew what had happened to them, and that someone was scared right now. Scared because the machine was broken. Scared because the truth was coming. Hannah would find them, all of them. Not because it was her job, because it was right. At 6 a.m., the sun came up. Hannah hadn't slept. She got out of bed, splashed water on her face, and opened the door. Reyes was sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee. "Morning," Reyes said. "You sleep?" "No." "Yeah, I didn't think so." She handed Hannah a second cup. "Hale's on his way. Press conference is at 9. He wants you there." Hannah took the coffee. It was bitter, strong, exactly what she needed. "What kind of press conference?" "The kind where we tell the city we just arrested a quarter of their government." "They're going to lose their minds." "Probably." Reyes stood, stretched. "But it's better than the alternative. Better than letting them keep getting away with it." Hale arrived at 7:30 in a black sedan, looking like he'd slept even less than Hannah. He had a garment bag with him, suit, blouse, shoes. "You're going on camera," he said. "Might as well look the part." Hannah frowned. "I'm not doing a press conference." "You're standing next to me while I do one. Big difference." "I'm not a prop." "You're a survivor, and people need to see that." Hale's voice was firm, but not unkind. "Bellamy and Preston are going to lawyer up. They're going to spin this as a witch hunt, a federal overreach. We need to show the city that this was real, that real people were hurt, that justice is being served." Hannah took the garment bag. "And if I say no? Then I respect your decision and do the press conference alone. But I'm asking you to be there, not for me, for the people who can't be." She thought of the 7 faces in the file, of the woman in the holding cell, of Emily Zhao, who'd tried to defend her and been shoved aside. "All right," Hannah said. "I'll be there." The press conference was held at City Hall. Ironic, considering the mayor was currently in federal custody. The steps were packed with reporters, cameras, microphones. Hale stood at a podium flanked by the FBI regional director, the DEA chief, and the state attorney general. Hannah stood off to the side, out of the spotlight, but visible. Hale began. "Good morning, at approximately 3 a.m. Today, a joint federal and state task force executed arrest warrants at multiple locations across Riverside. 23 individuals have been taken into custody on charges ranging from drug trafficking and fraud to corruption and conspiracy to commit murder." The crowd erupted. Questions shouted over each other. Cameras flashing. Hale raised a hand. "Among those arrested are Mayor Gregory Preston, Dr. Richard Bellamy of Mercy Ridge General Hospital, and Officer Marcus Dalton of the Riverside Police Department. These individuals were part of a criminal enterprise that has operated in this city for at least 3 years. They stole controlled substances from hospital pharmacies, distributed them through street networks, and used their positions of power to silence anyone who questioned them." More shouting, more questions. Hale didn't stop. "This investigation began 8 months ago and involved deep cover operations, surveillance, and the cooperation of individuals who risked their lives to expose the truth. As a result of their courage, we have seized financial records, communications, and physical evidence that will be used to prosecute these crimes to the fullest extent of the law." A reporter yelled, "Is it true 7 people were killed to cover this up?" Hale's expression hardened. "We are investigating the disappearances of 7 individuals who filed complaints or raised concerns about activities at Mercy Ridge General. At this time, I cannot comment further, but those investigations are ongoing and are a top priority." Another reporter. "What happens to the city now? The mayor's gone. Half the police force is under investigation. Who's in charge?" The state attorney general stepped forward. "The lieutenant governor will assume mayoral duties until a special election can be held. An independent oversight committee will review all city contracts and expenditures, and federal monitors will remain in Riverside to ensure transparency and accountability moving forward." The questions kept coming. Hale fielded them with the practiced calm of someone who'd done this 100 times. Hannah stood silent, hands clasped in front of her, watching the reporters' faces shift from skepticism to shock to something like understanding. When it was over, Hale stepped away from the podium and the cameras swarmed. He pushed through them, Hannah and Reyes flanking him, until they reached the sedan. Inside, Hale loosened his tie and exhaled. "Well, that's done." "Now what?" Hannah asked. "Now we build the cases, start interviewing witnesses, flip the small fish to get the big ones." He looked at her. "And you go back to your life." Hannah didn't have a life to go back to. She'd left everything behind 8 months ago to do this job. Her apartment was a sublet that had ended. Her belongings were in storage. Her friends, the few she'd had, had stopped calling when she stopped answering. "I don't have a life," she said. Hale frowned. "Then make one. You've earned it." Reyes's phone rang. She answered, listened, then her face went pale. "When? How many?" "Understood." She hung up. "We've got a problem." "What kind of problem?" Hale asked. "The kind where someone just firebombed the safe house we had you in last night." Hannah's blood went cold. "Anyone inside?" Hale asked. "No, the agents rotated out at 0600, but whoever did this knew where you were. They knew the address." Hale's jaw tightened. "Leak? Or really good surveillance?" Reyes looked at Hannah. "Either way, you're not safe in Riverside." "I'm not running," Hannah said. "You're not being given a choice." Hale pulled out his phone, started dialing. "We're moving you. Federal witness protection until we sort this out." "Witness protection?" Hannah's voice rose. "I'm not a witness. I'm an agent. You're a target, and until we know who's coming after you, you're going into protection." "No." "Carter, I said no." Hannah's hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from fury. "I didn't spend 8 months taking down this network just to hide while someone else cleans up the mess. Those 7 people deserve justice. I'm going to find them, and I'm going to make sure everyone responsible pays." Hale and Reyes exchanged a look. "She's not going to budge," Reyes said. "I can see that." Hale rubbed his face. "All right, compromise. You stay in Riverside, but you stay under protection. 24/7 detail. You don't go anywhere alone. You don't make a move without clearing it with us first. And if another threat comes in, we pull you out. Non-negotiable." Hannah considered it. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than being shipped off to some random town with a new name and a fake life. "Deal," she said. They moved her to a hotel downtown, top floor, corner suite, agents posted at the elevator and stairwells. Hannah spent the rest of the day pacing the room, reading and rereading the file on the missing 7, and ignoring the calls from reporters who'd somehow gotten her number. At 8 p.m., there was a knock on the door. Hannah looked through the peephole. Emily Zhao stood in the hallway, hands clasped nervously in front of her. Hannah opened the door. "How did you find me?" "I asked Agent Hale. He said you might want to see a friendly face." Emily's eyes were red, like she'd been crying. "Can I come in?" Hannah stepped aside. Emily entered, looked around the suite, then sat on the edge of the couch. "I saw the press conference," Emily said. "I can't believe it. Bellamy, the mayor, all those cops. I worked with those people. I trusted them." "I know." "And you?" Emily's voice broke. "You were investigating them this whole time. You let them arrest you. You let them humiliate you. Why didn't you tell anyone?" "I couldn't. If word got out, the whole operation would have collapsed." Emily wiped her eyes. "I tried to stop them when they were taking you away. I tried. I know. And I appreciated it. But it wasn't enough." Hannah sat down beside her. "You did what you could. That's all anyone can do." Emily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "What happens now? To the hospital? To us?" "Federal oversight, new administration, probably a lot of audits and investigations. It's going to be messy. Are you coming back?" Hannah hadn't thought about it. Coming back to Mercy Ridge, to the place where she'd spent 8 months pretending to be someone she wasn't. "I don't know. We need you. The ER is a disaster. Half the staff quit after the arrests. The other half don't know what to believe. We need someone we can trust." "I'm not sure I'm that person." "You are. You risked everything to do the right thing. That's exactly the kind of person we need." Hannah didn't know what to say. Emily stayed for another hour, talking about the hospital, the patients, the uncertainty. When she finally left, Hannah felt more exhausted than she had in days. She lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, and thought about Sarah Kemper, Miguel Ortega, Claire Donovan, 4 others whose names she'd memorized. Her phone buzzed. Text from Hale. Got a lead on one of the missing. "Meet me at the office tomorrow, 8 a.m. Hannah sat up. Her exhaustion vanished. She typed back, "I'll be there." Then she lay back down, closed her eyes, and for the first time in weeks, she slept. She dreamed of rivers and bodies and voices calling her name from places she couldn't reach. When she woke at dawn, her phone had 17 missed calls and a voicemail from a number she didn't recognize. She played the voicemail. Heavy breathing. Then a voice, low, distorted, like someone speaking through a filter. You should have stayed quiet, Hannah. Now you're going to pay. And everyone you care about is going to pay with you. The line went dead. Hannah played the voicemail 3 more times, listening for background noise, voice patterns, anything that might identify the caller. Nothing. Just distortion and breath and threat. She saved it, forwarded it to Hale, and got dressed. The agent outside her door, Martinez, mid-30s, former Marine, looked up from his phone when she opened it. Going somewhere? He asked. FBI office. Hale's got a lead on one of the missing. Martinez stood. I'll drive. They took the back exit down a service elevator that smelled like bleach and old carpet. The parking garage was dim, nearly empty. Martinez's SUV was in the corner, black and anonymous. Hannah climbed in. Martinez started the engine, checked the mirrors twice, then pulled out onto the street. The drive took 15 minutes. Hannah watched the city wake up. Coffee shops opening, construction crews gathering, people heading to jobs that didn't involve federal investigations or death threats. Normal people living normal lives. She'd forgotten what that looked like. The FBI field office was a concrete fortress on the edge of downtown, surrounded by barriers and checkpoints. Martinez badged them through. Inside, the building hummed with activity. Agents moving between desks, phones ringing, printers spitting out documents. Hannah had been in enough federal buildings to know the rhythm. This was a machine working overtime. Hale was in a conference room on the 3rd floor, surrounded by files and coffee cups. He looked up when Hannah entered. You got the voicemail? She asked. Yeah, tech's analyzing it now. Probably a burner phone with a voice modulator. We'll trace it, but don't hold your breath. He gestured to a chair. Sit. We've got something. Hannah sat. Reyes was there too, along with another agent Hannah didn't recognize, older, maybe 50, with gray hair and the kind of face that had seen every crime twice. This is Agent Kellerman, Hale said. He's been working cold cases in Riverside for 15 years. 3 days ago, I asked him to review the files on our missing 7. Tell her what you found. Kellerman pulled out a photograph. A woman, mid-30s, dark hair, bright smile. Hannah recognized her from the file. Sarah Kemper. Sarah Kemper disappeared 14 months ago, Kellerman said. Left Mercy Ridge after her night shift, never made it home. Her car was found abandoned near the river, keys still in the ignition. No signs of struggle, no witnesses. Local PD called it a probable suicide. But you don't think it was, Hannah said. I know it wasn't, because 2 days ago, a fisherman pulled something out of the water 5 miles downstream. A shoe. Women's size 7. Same brand Sarah was wearing the night she disappeared. We sent divers down. They found a car, submerged, weighed down with concrete blocks. Hannah's stomach turned. Was she inside? Kellerman nodded. Dental records confirmed it yesterday. Sarah Kemper. She didn't drive into that river. She was put there. The room was silent. How'd they miss this for 14 months? Hannah asked. They didn't look, Hale said quietly. Riverside PD ruled it a suicide within 48 hours. Case closed, no investigation, no follow-up. Because Dalton was on the force, Hannah said. Dalton signed off on the report, Kellerman confirmed, along with 2 other officers who are currently in custody. Hannah looked at Sarah's photograph. Mother of 2, 34 years old. She'd asked questions, filed a complaint, and ended up at the bottom of a river with concrete chained to her wrists. What about the others? Hannah asked. We're searching, Kellerman said. River, landfills, construction sites. If they're out there, we'll find them. When? Could be days, could be weeks. That's not good enough. Hale leaned forward. I know you want answers, but this is a recovery operation now. It takes time. Time they don't have. They're already dead, Carter. The words hung there, blunt and final. Hannah's hands clenched into fists. Then find who killed them. Make them talk. We're trying. Dalton lawyered up the second he got out of surgery. Bellamy's not saying a word. Preston's claiming executive privilege on half his files. These people are professionals. They know how to stay quiet. Then make them loud. Reyes cleared her throat. There might be a way. We arrested a low-level dealer yesterday, kid named Marcus Webb, 22, been running pills for Dalton's network for 6 months. He's scared. First offense, looking at 10 years minimum. His public defender's already floating the idea of a deal. What kind of deal? Hannah asked. Full cooperation in exchange for reduced sentencing. He gives us names, locations, details. We use that to pressure the next guy up the chain, who gives us the next guy, until we're back at the top. How long will that take? If Webb talks today? A week? Maybe 2? Hannah stood. I want to talk to him. Hale frowned. That's not protocol. I don't care about protocol. I care about finding 6 more bodies before they're so decomposed we can't identify them. You're not an interrogator. No, I'm someone who spent 8 months watching this machine destroy people. I know how it works. I know what they did, and I know how to make Webb understand that he's next if he doesn't talk. Hale and Reyes exchanged a look. Kellerman just watched, expression unreadable. All right, Hale said finally. But I'm in the room with you, and you follow my lead. Deal. They took Hannah to the detention center 20 minutes away. Webb was being held in a single cell, isolated from general population for his own safety. Snitches didn't last long in lockup, and everyone knew he was talking to the feds. He was younger than Hannah expected, baby-faced, nervous, with tattoos crawling up both arms and eyes that kept darting to the door like he expected someone to kick it in. Hannah sat across from him. Hale stood by the wall. No recording, no lawyer present yet. This was off the books. You Marcus Webb? Hannah asked. The kid nodded. I'm Hannah Carter. I'm the reason your boss is in federal custody right now. Webb's eyes widened. You're the nurse. Yeah. Dalton said you were a snitch. Said you'd get what was coming. Dalton's in a hospital bed with a bullet in his shoulder and a lifetime in prison ahead of him. I'm sitting here asking you questions. Who got what? Webb swallowed hard. Hannah leaned forward. You've been dealing for Dalton for 6 months. You know how the operation works. You know where the pills came from, who you sold to, who else was involved. And you know what happened to people who ask too many questions. I don't know nothing about that. Yes, you do. You just don't want to say it out loud because once you do, you can't take it back. But here's the thing, Marcus. You're already in. You're already facing 10 years. The only question now is whether you want to face it alone or whether you want to help us find the people who were murdered so their families can have some closure. Webb's leg bounced under the table. I talk. I'm dead. You know that, right? These people don't play. These people are in federal custody. They can't touch you. You think everyone's been arrested? You think it was just Bellamy and Preston and Dalton? There's a whole network, people you don't even know about. Hannah's pulse quickened. Then tell us. Give us names. Help us shut it down. Webb looked at Hale. What's in it for me? Hale stepped forward. Reduce sentencing. Witness protection if necessary, but only if you give us something we can use. Webb was quiet for a long time. Then he said, There's a guy, Vincent Cross. He's not a dealer. He's a fixer. When someone became a problem, Cross made them go away. Go away how? Hannah asked. However he needed to. Threats. Money. If that didn't work, Webb trailed off. He killed them, Hannah finished. Webb nodded. Is he still in Riverside? Far as I know. Where? I don't know. I only met him once. Dalton brought him to a meeting, said Cross was handling a situation. Didn't say what, didn't ask. What does he look like? White guy, maybe 45, 50, bald, scar across his left eyebrow. Talks real quiet, like he doesn't need to yell to scare you. Hannah looked at Hale. Hale nodded and stepped out of the room. 30 seconds later, he came back with a tablet. He pulled up a photo database, scrolled through a dozen faces, then turned the screen toward Webb. This him? Webb went pale. Yeah, that's him. Hannah looked at the screen. Vincent Cross. Former military. Dishonorable discharge. Arrest for assault, extortion, weapons charges. No convictions. Every case had fallen apart, witnesses recanting, evidence disappearing, prosecutors dropping charges. Where does he operate? Hale asked. I don't know, I swear. I only saw him that once. Hale turned off the tablet. All right, you keep talking to us. We'll keep you safe, but if you're holding back, if you're lying, the deal's off. Understand? Webb nodded quickly. They left him there and walked back to the car. Hannah's mind was racing. Cross is the key, she said. He's the one who made the 7 disappear. If we find him, we find the others. We're already looking, Hale said. Every database, every contact, every known associate. But Cross is a ghost. He doesn't leave trails. Everyone leaves trails. Back at the field office, Hannah spent the next 3 hours combing through Cross's file. Military service. Army Ranger, 3 deployments, exemplary record until he wasn't. The dishonorable discharge came after an incident in Afghanistan that the file didn't detail. Just a redacted report and a notation. Discharged under other than honorable conditions. After the Army, Cross had drifted. Security work, private contracting, bodyguard gigs. Then the arrest started. Always violent, always calculated, and always somehow he walked. He's protected, Hannah said to Reyes, who was working at the desk beside her. By who? People with power, people who needed someone like him. Preston? Maybe. Or someone higher. Reyes pulled up a financial database, started running Cross's known accounts. He's careful, no major deposits, no patterns. Everything's cash or crypto. What about property? Vehicles? Anything registered in his name? One address, apartment in the industrial district. We sent a team this morning. Empty. Cleared out weeks ago. Hannah's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered without thinking. Hannah Carter? A man's voice. Calm, quiet. Who is this? You've been asking about me. Thought I'd save you the trouble. Hannah's blood went cold. She looked at Reyes, mouthed the word Cross. Reyes immediately started tracing the call. Vincent Cross, Hannah said. The one and only. Where are you? Close enough. I wanted to see the woman who took down Preston. I'm impressed. Most people don't have the guts. Most people aren't being framed for theft and thrown in jail. Cross chuckled. Fair point, but here's the thing, Hannah. You made a mistake. You think arresting a few people changes anything. It doesn't. The machine's bigger than Preston, bigger than Bellamy, bigger than me. You cut off one head, 2 more grow back. That's a bad metaphor, and it's not true. You sure about that? Because while you've been busy playing hero, I've been busy too, tying up loose ends, making sure certain things stay buried. Hannah's grip on the phone tightened. The missing 7. You're smart, I'll give you that. Where are they? Some places you'll find, some places you won't. Depends how hard you look. We found Sarah Kemper. A pause. Good for you. 1 down, 6 to go. Tell me where they are. Why would I do that? Because you're going to prison either way. Might as well make it easier on yourself. Cross laughed. A real laugh, not forced. You think I'm going to prison? Hannah, I've been doing this for 20 years. I don't get caught. I don't leave evidence, and I sure as hell don't confess to some nurse with a hero complex. Then why call? Professional courtesy. You did good work, better than anyone expected, but it's time to walk away. Go back to your life. Forget about the 7. Forget about me. Because if you keep pushing, you're going to end up like them. Is that a threat? It's a fact. The line went dead. Reyes looked up from her screen. Got a location. Cell tower puts him somewhere in the warehouse district, 3-block radius. Hannah stood. Let's go. Hale assembled a tactical team in under 10 minutes. 8 agents, full gear, 2 armored vehicles. Hannah rode with Hale and Reyes. Nobody spoke. The city blurred past, buildings giving way to warehouses, pavement cracking into gravel. The warehouse district was a graveyard of industry. Empty buildings, broken windows, rusted fences. The kind of place where nobody asked questions because nobody wanted answers. Hale's radio crackled. Team 2 in position. South entrance secure. Copy. Team 1, move in. They approached a large warehouse on the corner of 2 empty streets. The building was 3 stories, brick facade crumbling, loading docks chained shut. Hale signaled. Agents moved in formation, weapons raised, covering angles. The front door was unlocked. That should have been the first warning. Inside, the warehouse was empty. No furniture, no equipment. Just concrete floors and steel beams and echoes. The team spread out, clearing rooms, checking corners. Clear! 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 They reached the center of the building. A single chair sat in the middle of the floor, and on the chair a phone. Hale approached it carefully. The phone was on, screen glowing. A video was playing on loop. Hannah looked over his shoulder. The video showed a man, Vincent Cross, she assumed, sitting in what looked like a hotel room. He was bald, scar across his left eyebrow, exactly as Webb described. He smiled at the camera. "If you're watching this, you found my little breadcrumb. Congratulations. But I'm not here. I'm somewhere warm, somewhere the FBI doesn't have jurisdiction, enjoying a drink and watching the sunset. You'll keep looking, you'll keep digging, and maybe you'll find another body or two. But you won't find me, and you won't stop what's already in motion." The video cut to black. Then text appeared. "Check the basement." Hale and Reyes exchanged a look. They found the basement door behind a false wall. The stairs were narrow, dark. Hale went first, flashlight cutting through the shadows. The basement smelled like death. At the bottom of the stairs, they found them. 2 bodies. Wrapped in plastic. Decomposed but recognizable with dental records. Miguel Ortega, Claire Donovan. Hannah turned away, hand over her mouth. Reyes radioed for the medical examiner. Hale just stood there staring at the bodies, jaw clenched. "He left them here for us to find," Hale said quietly. "He wanted us to know." "Know what?" Reyes asked. "That he's still in control." They spent the next 6 hours processing the scene. Medical examiner, forensics team, photographers. Hannah stayed upstairs, watching through the windows as the sun set and the city lights flickered on. 2 more down, 4 still missing. Hale found her sitting on the loading dock, arms wrapped around her knees. "We'll find the others," he said. "When?" "I don't know." Hannah looked at him. "He's right, isn't he? We arrested Preston and Bellamy and Dalton, but the machine's still running. Not if we shut it down piece by piece. How many more people have to die first?" Hale didn't have an answer for that. They drove back to the field office in silence. Hannah's phone buzzed constantly. Reporters, lawyers, people wanting statements. She ignored all of them except one. A text from Emily Zhao. "Are you okay?" "Saw the news." "They found 2 more. Hannah typed back, "I'm fine. How's the hospital?" "Chaos." "But we're managing." "When are you coming back?" Hannah stared at the question. She didn't know. Didn't know if she could go back to stitching wounds and taking vitals when there were still 4 bodies out there somewhere. Still a killer on the run. Still a network that hadn't been fully dismantled. She didn't respond. At the field office, Hale called an emergency meeting. Every agent working the case crammed into the conference room. Hale stood at the front, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "Cross is in the wind," he said, "but he's not untouchable. We've got his face, his history, his patterns. We're coordinating with Interpol, ICE, every international agency. If he crosses a border, we'll know." "What about the remaining 4?" an agent asked. "We keep searching. Rivers, forests, construction sites. Cross left Miguel and Claire for us to find. Maybe he'll do the same with the others. Or maybe he won't," Kellerman said. "Maybe those 4 are insurance. Leverage if he ever needs it." The room went quiet. Hannah stood. "Then we find them before he can use them." "How?" Reyes asked. "We go back to the beginning. We look at where each person disappeared, what they were working on, who they talked to. There's a pattern. There has to be." Hale nodded slowly. "All right, Carter, you work with Kellerman. Go through every file, every report, every witness statement. Find the pattern." Hannah and Kellerman spent the next 12 hours buried in files. 4 people still missing. James Rourke, 47, pharmacist. Disappeared after filing a complaint about inventory discrepancies. Last seen leaving his house to meet someone he wouldn't name. Natalie Vega, 26, nurse. Told her sister she had proof of fraud. Sister reported her missing when she didn't show up for dinner. No body, no leads. David Kim, 52, orderly. Witnessed a confrontation between Bellamy and a pharmaceutical rep. Quit 2 days later. Vanished a week after that. And Lisa Tran, 39, nurse practitioner. Filed 3 separate reports about missing medications. Found her car in a Walmart parking lot, doors locked, purse inside. No trace of Lisa. Hannah laid the files out on the table, looking for connections. Different ages, different positions, different times of disappearance. But one thing was consistent. They'd all filed complaints within 2 weeks of vanishing. He's reactive, Hannah said. Cross doesn't kill randomly. He kills when someone becomes a problem. So we find out who ordered the hits, Kellerman said. Bellamy? Preston? Maybe both. If we can prove they gave Cross the orders, we've got them on murder conspiracy. Hannah pulled out her phone, called Hale. We need to re-interview Bellamy and Preston. Push them harder. One of them ordered Cross to kill those people. We need a confession. They're lawyered up 6 ways to Sunday, Hale said. We're not getting confessions. Then we get evidence, phone records, emails, financial transactions. Cross didn't work for free. Someone paid him. We've been through their accounts. Everything's clean. Then they used intermediaries, shell companies, offshore accounts. There's always a trail. Hale was quiet for a moment. All right. I'll have forensic accounting dig deeper. But Carter, you need to sleep. You've been up for almost 48 hours. I'll sleep when we find them. That's not sustainable. Neither is leaving 4 people in unmarked graves. She hung up before he could argue. Kellerman looked at her. You're going to burn out. Probably. That help anyone? Hannah didn't answer. She went back to the files. At 3 a.m., her phone rang. Hale. We've got something, he said. Forensic accounting found a series of wire transfers from a shell company linked to Preston. Small amounts, scattered over 2 years. They all went to an account in the Cayman Islands. Cross's account? Can't confirm yet. But the timing lines up with the disappearances. Each transfer happens within a week of someone going missing. Hannah's heart raced. That's the link. That's what we need. It's circumstantial. A good lawyer will tear it apart. Not if we find the bodies. Not if we can prove Cross was paid to kill them. We're working on it. Hannah hung up and looked at Kellerman. They paid him. Preston paid Cross to make them disappear. Now we just need the bodies. At 7 a.m., Hannah's phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You want the last 4? I'll trade. Hannah stared at the screen. She showed it to Kellerman, who immediately called Hale. 5 minutes later, Hale was on speakerphone. Reply. Ask what he wants. Hannah typed, trade for what? The response came instantly. Immunity. Full pardon. I walk, you get locations. Hannah looked at the phone like it had bitten her. He wants immunity. Not happening, Hale said. He's killed at least 7 people, maybe more. He doesn't get to walk. Hannah typed, no deal. Cross's reply. Then they stay buried. Your choice. She threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor. Kellerman picked it up, screen cracked but still working. Easy, he said. He killed 7 people and he wants to walk free. I know. We can't let that happen. We won't. Hannah's hands were shaking. She clenched them into fists. So what do? We keep looking, and we hope he makes a mistake. At 9 a.m., the mistake came. Cross called Hannah directly. Not a text. A call. She answered on speaker, Hale and Reyes listening. Thought about my offer? Cross asked. No deal, Hannah said. You don't get to trade bodies for freedom. Those aren't bodies, they're people. Families waiting for closure. You really want to deny them that because you're on some moral high horse? I'm not the one who killed them. No, but you're the one keeping them buried. Hannah's jaw clenched. Where are you, Cross? Somewhere you'll never find me. You called from a cell phone. We're tracing it right now. Cross laughed. Burner. I'll toss it in 10 minutes, but here's a freebie, since you've been such a good sport. James Rourke is in a landfill outside the city. Section D7. Happy hunting. The line went dead. Hale was already on his radio. Get teams to the landfill. Section D7. Move. They found James Rourke 6 hours later, buried under 3 tons of garbage. Cause of death. Blunt force trauma to the skull. Time of death. Approximately 18 months ago. 3 more still missing. Hannah stood at the edge of the landfill, watching the excavators work, and realized Cross was playing a game. He'd give them bodies one at a time, dragging it out, keeping control. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Cross. 1 down, 3 to go. Still want to say no to my deal? Hannah didn't respond. She turned off her phone, got in the SUV, and told Martinez to drive her back to the hotel. In her room, she sat on the bed and stared at the wall. 4 days ago, she'd been in a holding cell. Now she was hunting a killer who seemed to be 10 steps ahead at every turn. Her phone buzzed. She'd turned it off, but apparently the battery had enough juice for one more message. She looked at the screen. Meet me. Alone. Tonight. Riverside Park, North Bench. Midnight. I'll tell you where the last 3 are. No deals, no trades. Just you and me. Hannah stared at the message for a long time. Then she started getting ready. Hannah didn't tell anyone about the message. She waited until Martinez went to get coffee, then slipped out the service exit wearing jeans and a dark jacket. The Glock was at her hip. The wire she'd used before was still in her bag. She taped it to her ribs again, tested it twice, then turned it on. If Cross wanted to meet, she'd make sure every word was recorded. Riverside Park sat on the north edge of the city where the river met the bay. During the day, it was joggers and families. At night, it belonged to nobody. Hannah arrived at 11:30, parked 3 blocks away, and walked in on foot. The park was empty. Streetlights threw pools of yellow onto cracked pavement. Trees swayed in the wind off the water. The north bench faced the river. Hannah sat down and waited. Midnight came and went. No Cross, no movement, just wind and water and the distant hum of traffic. At 12:15, her phone buzzed. Turn around! Hannah stood and turned. Cross was 20 feet behind her, hands in his pockets, that scar across his eyebrow visible even in the dim light. He looked relaxed, comfortable, like a man who'd done this 100 times. You came alone, he said. You asked me to. Most people would have brought backup. I'm not most people. Cross smiled. No, you're really not. He took a step closer. Hannah's hand drifted toward her hip. Cross noticed. You planning to shoot me, Hannah? Depends on what you say next. Fair. He stopped 10 feet away, close enough to talk, far enough to run if he needed to. I'll keep it simple. The last 3 are buried on the old Mitchum property. Industrial site, abandoned for 5 years. Northwest corner, under the foundation of the old warehouse. You'll need ground-penetrating radar and a backhoe, but they're there. Hannah's heart pounded. Why tell me now? Because this game's getting boring, and because I'm leaving the country tomorrow, figured I'd throw you a bone on the way out. You think I'm just going to let you walk? Cross laughed. You don't have a choice. By the time your people get to that site, I'll be in the air. And by the time they confirm the bodies, I'll be somewhere without extradition treaties, sipping rum and watching the ocean. You killed 7 people. I did a job. People hired me. I fulfilled the contract. That's how the world works. Not my world. Then you live in a fantasy. Cross pulled his hands out of his pockets. Empty. No weapon. Here's the truth, Hannah. You took down Preston and Bellamy. You arrested half the city's power structure. And you know what's going to happen. Someone else will take their place. Someone smarter. Someone quieter. The machine doesn't stop. It just changes operators. Not if I burn it to the ground. You can't. Because the machine is people, and people are greedy and scared and willing to do terrible things to protect what's theirs. You think you're a hero? You're a speed bump, a temporary inconvenience. In 6 months, Riverside will be back to business as usual, and you'll be forgotten. Hannah's hand was on the Glock now. You done? Almost. One more thing. Cross reached into his jacket. Hannah drew her weapon. Cross froze, hands visible. Easy, just a phone. That's all. He pulled out a cell phone, held it up so she could see, then set it on the bench between them. Passwords 1, 2, 3, 4. Real creative, I know. But what's on that phone is everything. Contracts, communications, proof of who hired me and when. Preston, Bellamy, 3 city councilors, a state senator, even a federal prosecutor who thought he was untouchable. It's all there. Hannah stared at the phone. Why? Because I'm a professional. I keep records. And because if I ever go down, I'm taking everyone with me. But since I'm not going down, you can have it. Use it. Bury them all. Consider it my retirement gift. He started walking backward toward the tree line. Hannah raised her gun. Stop. Cross kept walking. You gonna shoot me in the back, Hannah? That who you are? Hannah's finger was on the trigger. One shot, center mass. He'd be dead before he hit the ground. But her hand wouldn't move. Cross reached the trees, gave a little salute, and disappeared into the dark. Hannah stood there for 10 seconds, gun still raised, breathing hard. Then she lowered the weapon, grabbed the phone from the bench, and ran. By the time she reached her car, Cross was gone. She called Hale. "Where the hell are you?" Hale demanded. "Riverside Park." Cross was here. He gave me a phone, says it has everything, proof of who hired him, when, how much, and he told me where the last 3 bodies are. Silence on the line. Then, "Stay there. I'm sending a team." "He's gone. Said he's leaving the country tomorrow." "We'll find him. Just stay put." Hale arrived 20 minutes later with Reyes and a forensics team. Hannah handed over the phone. A tech opened it, scrolled through the files, and his face went pale. This is a gold mine," the tech said. "Emails, wire transfers, audio recordings. There's enough here to prosecute a dozen people." Hale took the phone, scanned the screen. His jaw tightened. He wasn't lying. Preston, Bellamy, Counselor Marsh, Counselor DeVries, Senator Calloway, even Assistant U.S. Attorney Brennan. They all hired Cross at some point. "Brennan's a federal prosecutor," Reyes said. "Was," Hale corrected. "As of right now, he's a suspect." He looked at Hannah. "You said Cross told you where the bodies are?" "Mitchum property, northwest corner, under the old warehouse foundation." Hale radioed for teams to mobilize. Then he turned back to Hannah. "You know going to that park alone was the dumbest thing you could have done." "Probably. He could have killed you." "He didn't want to kill me, he wanted to gloat. And he wanted to make sure his insurance policy got into the right hands." "Why you?" Hannah shrugged. "Because I'm the one who started this. And because he respects the work." "That's not respect. That's ego." "Either way, we have what we need." They went to the Mitchum property at dawn. The site was exactly as Cross described, abandoned industrial land overgrown with weeds, rusted fences sagging. The old warehouse was a concrete shell, windows broken, roof caved in. The ground-penetrating radar team set up in the northwest corner. Within an hour, they had hits. 3 anomalies, human-sized, buried 6 feet under the old foundation. The excavation took most of the day. Hannah stood at the edge of the site, watching backhoes tear through concrete and dirt. Slowly, carefully, they uncovered the bodies. Natalie Vega, David Kim, Lisa Tran, all 3 wrapped in plastic, just like Miguel and Claire. All 3 had been dead for over a year. The medical examiner confirmed identities by evening. Families were notified. The media descended like vultures. By the time the sun set, Riverside Park was national news. Hannah sat in the FBI field office, staring at the wall, while around her agents worked phones and computers building cases, issuing warrants. The phone Cross had left was being torn apart, every file analyzed, every contact traced. Hale found her in the conference room. "We just arrested Senator Calloway. He was trying to board a private jet. Brennan turned himself in an hour ago. Marsh and DeVries lawyered up, but they're not going anywhere." "What about Cross?" Hannah asked. "Interpol has his photo flagged at every airport in the Western Hemisphere. If he tries to fly commercial, we'll grab him. If he goes private, it'll take longer, but we'll find him." Hannah nodded. She felt hollow. They'd found the bodies, arrested the conspirators, exposed the machine, but Cross was still out there, still free. "You did good work, Carter," Hale said. "Better than good. You just dismantled the most corrupt network this state's ever seen." "Doesn't feel like it." "It will. Give it time." Time. Hannah wasn't sure she had any left. She'd been running on fumes and anger for so long that now, with the immediate fight over, she didn't know what to do with herself. Reyes appeared in the doorway. "Hannah? You've got visitors." Hannah followed her to the lobby. Emily Zhao was there, along with 3 other nurses from Mercy Ridge. They looked exhausted but determined. Emily stepped forward. "We heard about the bodies, about everything. We wanted to see if you were okay." Hannah didn't know how to answer that. "I'm fine." "You're not," one of the other nurses said. Marcus, mid-40s, trauma specialist. "None of us are. But we wanted you to know that we're with you. Whatever happens next, we're with you." "The hospital's a mess," Emily added. "Administration's gone. Half the board's been arrested. The staff doesn't know who to trust, but we know we can trust you. We want you to come back. Not as an investigator, as a nurse, as one of us." Hannah looked at them. These were people who'd worked beside her for 8 months, who'd covered her shifts and trusted her with their patients. They didn't know she'd been undercover. Didn't know she'd been documenting their boss's crimes while stitching wounds and running IVs. "I lied to you," Hannah said quietly. "For 8 months I pretended to be someone I wasn't." "You were exactly who you said you were," Marcus said. "A nurse, a good one. Everything else was just extra." Emily nodded. "You saved lives. You stopped bad people. You did what we were all too scared to do. That's not lying. That's courage." Hannah's throat tightened. She didn't feel courageous. She felt tired, angry, lost. "I'll think about it," she said. The nurses left. Hill walked her back to the conference room. "You should go back. To the hospital. You're good at it." "I'm good at this too," Hannah said, gesturing to the files and evidence spread across the table. "You are. But this takes a toll. You've seen what it does to people." "What's the alternative? Go back to pretending the world's not full of people like Cross and Preston?" "No, just choose your battles. You can't fight every war." Hannah didn't respond. She sat down and opened Cross's phone again. There were hundreds of files, thousands of messages, a complete record of a man who'd made a career out of making problems disappear. One file caught her eye. Audio recording, dated 18 months ago. She clicked it. The voices were clear. Preston and Cross discussing a contract. Preston: "The pharmacist, Rourke. He's becoming a problem. Filed another complaint yesterday." Cross: "You want him gone?" Preston: "Permanently. Make it look like an accident." Cross: "That'll cost extra." Preston: "I don't care what it costs. Just handle it." Hannah played it again, then a third time. This was it. Direct proof that Preston had ordered a murder. She called Hale. "You need to hear this." By midnight, they'd gone through every file. 13 contracts. 13 people Cross had been hired to eliminate. 7 were the missing people from Mercy Ridge. The other 6 were scattered across the state. Whistleblowers, investigative reporters, a judge who'd been too aggressive prosecuting corruption cases. "This is bigger than Riverside," Reyes said. "This is a statewide conspiracy." "National," Hale corrected. "Senator Callaway's on here. If a sitting senator was hiring a killer, we need to know who else in Washington knew about it." The investigation exploded. Federal prosecutors from 3 states descended on Riverside. Grand juries were convened. Indictments were drafted. Within a week, the arrest count hit 47. Politicians, executives, lawyers, cops. The network Cross had built his career on was collapsing, and through it all, Cross stayed gone. Interpol hadn't found him. No flights, no border crossings. He'd vanished like smoke. Hannah spent the week giving depositions, meeting with prosecutors, reliving every moment of the past 8 months. She testified in front of a grand jury, walked them through the evidence, played the recordings. When it was over, the lead prosecutor, a woman named Judith Carver, late 50s, iron gray hair, and eyes that missed nothing, pulled Hannah aside. "You know you're going to have to testify at trial," Carver said. "All of them. Preston, Bellamy, Callaway, the rest. They'll put you on the stand and tear you apart. Defense attorneys will call you a liar, a plant, an unreliable witness. It's going to be brutal." "I've been through worse," Hannah said. "I'm sure you have. But this is different. This is legal warfare, and these people have resources." "So do we." Carver almost smiled. "Yes, we do." She handed Hannah a business card. "When the trials start, call me. I'll make sure you're ready." Hannah pocketed the card and left. Outside, the city felt different, quieter, like it was holding its breath. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her. "Hannah Carter?" A woman's voice, older, shaking. "Yes. This is Margaret Kemper, Sarah's mother." Hannah's heart stopped. Sarah Kemper, the first body they'd found in the river. "Mrs. Kemper," Hannah said, "I'm so sorry for your loss. I wanted to thank you for finding her, for bringing her home. The police told us it was suicide. We believed them. For 14 months, we believed our daughter killed herself, and now we know the truth, because of you." Hannah didn't know what to say. She was a good person, Margaret continued. She tried to do the right thing, and they killed her for it. But you made sure they didn't get away with it. So thank you, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. The line went quiet. Hannah could hear Margaret crying softly. She didn't die for nothing, Hannah said. None of them did. I know, because you made sure of it. They talked for another 10 minutes. Margaret told her about Sarah, her kids, her dreams, her plans. Hannah listened. It was the least she could do. When the call ended, Hannah sat in her car and cried for the first time since this whole thing started. 2 weeks later, Cross was found. Not by Interpol, not by the FBI, by a bartender in Costa Rica who recognized his face from a news broadcast and called the local police. Costa Rica had an extradition treaty. Cross was arrested, cuffed, and put on a plane within 48 hours. He landed in Riverside to a media circus, cameras everywhere, protesters outside the courthouse, signs reading "Justice for the Seven" and "No mercy for killers." Hannah watched from the FBI office as Cross was led inside in shackles. He looked smaller than she remembered, tired, defeated. Hale stood beside her. He'll go to trial in 6 months. Prosecution's building an airtight case. He's looking at life without parole. Maybe the death penalty. What about Preston and Bellamy? Their trials start next month. Both pleading not guilty, both claiming they were set up. Juries won't buy it, but they'll try. Hannah nodded. She felt something loosen in her chest. Not relief exactly, but closure. The beginning of it, anyway. 3 weeks after Cross's arrest, the city held a memorial service for the seven. It was in Riverside Park near the bench where Hannah had met Cross. Families spoke. Friends cried. A pastor said words about loss and justice and healing. Hannah stood in the back, watching. She wasn't ready to be seen, wasn't ready to be thanked. But Margaret Kemper found her anyway. She walked over, grabbed Hannah's hand, and held it. You should be up there, Margaret said, with the families. I'm not family. You gave us our daughter back. That makes you family. Hannah didn't argue. She stood with Margaret and listened as the names were read. Sarah Kemper, Miguel Ortega, Claire Donovan, James Rourke, Natalie Vega, David Kim, Lisa Tran. 7 people who'd asked the wrong questions and paid with their lives. But now, finally, their stories were being told. Their names were being remembered. After the service, Hannah walked to the river and stood at the edge. The water was dark, moving fast. She thought about Sarah trapped in a car at the bottom of this river for 14 months. Thought about all the ways the system had failed her. Her phone buzzed. Text from Hale. Preston's lawyer just filed a motion to suppress evidence. Says the phone Cross gave you was obtained illegally. Hearing tomorrow at 9 a.m., need you there. Hannah read the message twice. Preston was fighting back. Of course he was. Men like him didn't go down easy. She texted back, I'll be there. The hearing was in a federal courthouse downtown. Hannah sat behind this prosecution table while Preston's lawyer, a man named Gerald Finch, 60, expensive suit, shark smile, argued that the phone was inadmissible. Your Honor, this evidence was obtained without a warrant, without proper chain of custody, and from a criminal who has every reason to fabricate information. Allowing it into evidence would be a gross violation of my client's constitutional rights. Prosecutor Carver stood. Your Honor, the defendant hired a contract killer to murder 7 innocent people. The evidence on that phone proves it beyond any doubt. Suppressing it would be a miscarriage of justice. The judge, a woman named Helena Ortiz, late 50s, sharp eyes, looked at both lawyers. I'll take this under advisement. Ruling by end of week. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed Hannah, microphones in her face, questions shouting over each other. Ms. Carter, do you think Preston will walk? How does it feel knowing you took down the mayor? Are you scared of retaliation? Hannah pushed through them without answering. Martinez was waiting with the SUV. They drove in silence. That night, Hannah couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the judge's face, the way she'd looked at the evidence, the way Finch had smiled when the hearing ended. At 2 a.m., her phone rang. Hale. We've got a problem, he said. Judge Ortiz just recused herself from the case. Says there's a conflict of interest. What conflict? Her husband's law firm represented one of Preston's shell companies 3 years ago. She didn't know until tonight. New judge will be assigned tomorrow. Hannah sat up. Who's the new judge? Don't know yet. Random assignment. Could be anyone. Or it could be someone Preston owns. Hale didn't respond. He didn't need to. They both knew how this worked. The new judge was announced the next morning. Arthur Brennan. No relation to the federal prosecutor they'd arrested. Clean record. 15 years on the bench. No obvious connections to Preston. But Hannah didn't trust it. Didn't trust the timing. Didn't trust the randomness. She spent the next week digging into Brennan's background. Found nothing. No red flags, no connections. He was exactly what he appeared to be. A career judge with a reputation for fairness. The suppression hearing was rescheduled. Same arguments, same evidence. But this time, Judge Brennan asked harder questions. Ms. Carver, you're asking me to admit evidence obtained by a contract killer with no oversight, no warrant, and no verification. How do I know this phone wasn't planted? How do I know Cross didn't fabricate these files to frame your defendants? Carver stood. Because the files corroborate testimony from multiple witnesses. Because the financial records match wire transfers we've independently verified. Because that's not what I asked, Brennan interrupted. I asked how you know the evidence is authentic. Carver hesitated. We've had forensic analysts examine the phone. The metadata checks out. The timestamps are consistent. There's no indication of tampering. No indication isn't the same as proof. Hannah's stomach dropped. She could see where this was going. Brennan ruled 3 days later. The phone was inadmissible. Every file, every recording, every message thrown out. Carver called Hannah immediately. We're appealing, but it's going to take months. And without that phone, we don't have enough to convict Preston on the murder conspiracy charges. We can still get him on fraud and corruption, but he won't do life. He'll do 10 years, maybe 15. That's not justice, Hannah said. It's the system. Hannah hung up and threw her phone across the room. It hit the wall and shattered. She sat on the floor and tried to breathe. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. But the rage wouldn't leave. They'd found the bodies, arrested the killers, exposed the conspiracy. And still, Preston might walk. Her burner phone, the one Hale had given her, buzzed. Text from a number she didn't recognize. You want Preston? I can give him to you, but you have to trust me. Hannah stared at the message. Then she typed back, Who is this? The response came immediately. Someone who knows what you're going through. Meet me. Warehouse District, Pier 9, midnight. Come alone. Hannah read the message 3 times. Every instinct screamed trap. But she was out of options. She grabbed her gun and left. Pier 9 sat at the edge of the warehouse district where the river opened into the bay. During the day, it was cargo containers and forklifts. At night, it was shadows and rust and the sound of water slapping against concrete. Hannah arrived at 11:45, parked 2 blocks away, and walked in on foot. The Glock was at her hip. No wire this time. No backup. Just her and whoever was waiting. The pier stretched out over black water. At the far end, a figure stood with their back to her, hands in their pockets, watching the city lights across the bay. Hannah's hand went to her weapon. She approached slowly, boots silent on the worn planks. The figure turned. It was a woman, late 40s, dark hair pulled back, wearing a long coat and an expression that looked like it had been carved from stone. Hannah Carter, the woman said. Not a question, a statement. Who are you? Someone who worked for Preston, until I didn't. The woman stepped into the light from a nearby street lamp. Her face was familiar, but Hannah couldn't place it. My name's Rebecca Holt. I was his chief of staff for 8 years. Hannah remembered now. Holt had resigned 2 weeks after the arrests, citing personal reasons. The media had speculated she was distancing herself before the scandal touched her. Why am I here? Hannah asked. Because the phone Cross gave you wasn't the only evidence. I have recordings too, conversations Preston thought were private, including one where he explicitly orders Cross to kill Sarah Kemper. Holt pulled a flash drive from her pocket. Judge Brennan can't suppress what he doesn't know exists. Hannah stared at the flash drive. Why didn't you come forward before? Because I was scared. Because Preston owned half the people who could have protected me. And because I spent 8 years convincing myself I was just doing my job, that I wasn't complicit. Holt's voice cracked. But I was. I knew what he was doing. I knew people were dying, and I stayed quiet because it was easier than being brave. What changed? You did. You walked into that hospital knowing you could end up in a cell or worse, and you did it anyway. You didn't stay quiet, so I figured the least I could do was stop being a coward. Hannah took the flash drive. How do I know this is real? Listen to it. You'll know. Holt turned to leave, then stopped. There's something else. Judge Brennan, he's not random. Preston's lawyer has a connection to the clerk who assigns judges. They made sure Brennan got the case. How? Money, lots of it. The clerk's daughter needed surgery. Finch paid for it. Brennan doesn't know he was chosen. He thinks it's legitimate, but the fix was in before the hearing even started. Hannah's blood ran cold. Can you prove it? It's on the drive. Bank records, emails, the whole thing. Holt pulled her coat tighter. I'm leaving the state tonight. If Preston finds out I talked to you, I'm dead, so use what I gave you. Make it count. Wait. But Holt was already walking away, disappearing into the dark between warehouses. Hannah stood alone on the pier with a flash drive that could either save the case or be another dead end. She got back to her car and called Hale. Where are you? He asked. Martinez said you slipped out again. I just met with Rebecca Holt, Preston's former chief of staff. She gave me evidence, recordings. Says Preston explicitly ordered Sarah Kemper's murder, and she says Judge Brennan was handpicked. Silence on the line. Then, where are you right now? My car. Warehouse district. Stay there. I'm coming to you. Hale arrived with Reyes 20 minutes later. Hannah handed him the flash drive. They went to the field office, loaded it onto a secure computer, and started going through the files. There were dozens of recordings, phone calls, in-person meetings, all secretly recorded by Holt over the past 3 years. She'd been documenting everything, building insurance in case Preston ever turned on her. Hale played one file. Preston's voice, unmistakable. Preston. Sarah Kemper filed another complaint. HR's investigating now. Holt. We can handle HR. They'll bury it like the others. Preston. Not this time. She's got documentation, photos of the pharmacy logs. If this gets out, we're finished. Holt. What do you want to do? Preston. Call Cross. Tell him we need the problem eliminated. Permanently. Holt. Are you sure that's... Preston. I don't pay you to question me. Make the call. The recording ended. Hale played it again, then a third time. This is it, he said quietly. Direct evidence. Preston ordering a hit. Reyes was going through the financial records. The stuff about Judge Brennan checks out too. Finch paid for the clerk's daughter's surgery. $73,000. Transferred through a shell company, but the trail's clear. Hale leaned back in his chair. We take this to the Attorney General. Tonight. They called an emergency meeting. By 3 a.m., the State Attorney General, 2 federal prosecutors, and the FBI Regional Director were in a conference room listening to the recordings. When it was over, the Attorney General, a man named Thomas Raines, early 60s, former Marine with a face like weathered granite, stood and addressed the room. We're filing new charges against Preston, murder conspiracy, witness tampering, and we're opening an investigation into Judge Brennan's assignment. If he was compromised, we'll remove him and restart the trial. What about Finch? Hale asked. He'll be disbarred at minimum, prosecuted if we can prove he knew about the judge assignment scheme. Raines looked at Hannah. Ms. Carter, you've just saved this case. Maybe the entire prosecution. Hannah didn't feel like a hero. She felt exhausted. When do we move? Today. By noon, Preston will be charged with murder. By tonight, Judge Brennan will be removed from the case. And by next week, we'll have a new judge and a trial date. Raines buttoned his jacket. This ends now. No more delays. No more games. The arrests happened fast. At 9 a.m., federal agents walked into Preston's holding facility and served him with new charges. His lawyer, Finch, was arrested an hour later at his office. The court clerk who'd accepted the bribe was taken into custody before lunch. Judge Brennan, when informed of the investigation, voluntarily recused himself. He looked gutted. He'd been a judge for 15 years and now his career was over because of a decision he didn't even know was rigged. By evening, the news had spread. Every channel, every website. The mayor who'd ordered murders, the lawyer who'd bought a judge, the system that had almost let them win. Hannah watched it all from the FBI office, sitting in the conference room with cold coffee and a headache that wouldn't quit. Emily Zhao called 3 times. Hannah let it go to voicemail. She wasn't ready to talk, wasn't ready to explain how close they'd come to losing everything. Hale found her at 7 p.m. "You should go home." "I don't have a home," Hannah said. "I have a hotel room with 2 federal agents outside the door." "Then go there. Sleep. You've been up for almost 40 hours. I'll sleep when it's done." "It is done. Preston's charged. Finch is charged. The trial's back on track. You did your part." Hannah looked at him. "Did I? Because it feels like we keep finding new ways this thing could fall apart." Hill sat down across from her. "You know what the difference is between you and most people? Most people would have given up. After the arrest, the cell, the humiliation, they would have walked away. But you didn't. You kept pushing. And because you did, 7 families got closure. A dozen corrupt officials are in prison. And a system that was built to protect the powerful is finally being held accountable. For now," Hannah said, "until the next Preston comes along. Then you'll be there to stop them too." Hannah almost smiled. Almost. The new judge was assigned 2 days later. Judge Maria Santos, 47, former prosecutor, 0 tolerance for corruption. The trial was scheduled to begin in 6 weeks. Hannah spent those 6 weeks preparing. Depositions, strategy sessions, mock cross-examinations where Carver played the role of defense attorney and tore Hannah's testimony apart, looking for weaknesses. "They're going to call you biased," Carver said during one session. "They're going to say you had a vendetta against Preston, that you fabricated evidence to get revenge." "I didn't fabricate anything." "I know. But you have to prove it. You have to be unshakable on that stand." Hannah practiced until she could recite every detail without hesitation. Dates, times, names. The evidence was solid. She just had to present it without letting the defense rattle her. The trial started on a Monday in October. The courthouse was packed. Media, protesters, families of the victims. Hannah sat in the gallery for the first 3 days, watching jury selection, opening statements, the prosecution's methodical presentation of evidence. On day 4, she was called to testify. The courtroom went silent as she walked to the stand, every eye on her. Preston sat at the defense table in a suit that probably cost more than most people made in a month, looking calm and composed, like a man who believed he'd already won. Carver stood. "Please state your name for the record." "Hannah Louise Carter." "And what is your occupation?" "I'm a registered nurse, trauma specialist, and for 8 months, I worked undercover for the FBI investigating corruption at Mercy Ridge General Hospital." The courtroom erupted. Judge Santos banged her gavel. "Order, or I'll clear this room." The noise died down. Carver continued. "Ms. Carter, can you describe what you discovered during your investigation?" Hannah spent the next 2 hours walking the jury through everything. The missing medications, the falsified records, the network of dealers, Preston's involvement, Cross's contracts, the 7 victims. When she got to Sarah Kemper, her voice didn't shake. She looked directly at the jury and said, "Sarah Kemper was a nurse, a mother of 2. She filed a complaint about medication discrepancies, and 14 months later she was found at the bottom of the river with concrete blocks chained to her wrists. And the man who ordered her death is sitting right there." She pointed at Preston. He didn't flinch. Carver played the recording. Preston's voice filled the courtroom. "Call Cross. Tell him we need the problem eliminated, permanently." When it ended, the silence was absolute. Carver had no more questions. Now came the hard part. Preston's new lawyer, a woman named Victoria Cross, no relation to Vincent, early 50s with a reputation for destroying witnesses, stood and approached the stand. "Miss Carter, you spent 8 months lying to your colleagues, correct?" "I was undercover." "You lied about who you were, what you were doing, why you were there." "To gather evidence of criminal activity." "So lying is acceptable when you decide it serves a greater purpose?" "Objection," Carver said. "Argumentative." "Sustained." Victoria didn't miss a beat. "You had a personal stake in this investigation, didn't you? You were arrested, humiliated. You wanted revenge." "I wanted justice." Those are convenient words. But the truth is, you had every reason to fabricate evidence against my client. Hannah leaned forward. I didn't fabricate anything. The recordings are real. The bodies are real. The 7 people who died because your client ordered their murders are real. You can't know that my client ordered anything. You have recordings from a disgruntled employee who might have her own agenda. Rebecca Holt recorded Preston's own voice giving the order. Allegedly. But voice recordings can be manipulated. Evidence can be planted. And desperate people do desperate things. Hannah's hands clenched under the table. I spent 8 months watching people suffer because of your client's greed. I watched nurses work double shifts because the hospital couldn't afford to hire more staff, while Preston siphoned money into offshore accounts. I watched patients die because medication was being stolen and sold on the street. So no, I'm not desperate. I'm just done watching people like him destroy lives without consequences. Victoria paused, then she smiled. No further questions. Hannah stepped down. Her legs were shaking, but she kept her head up. She'd said what needed to be said. The rest was up to the jury. The trial continued for 3 more weeks. Expert witnesses, financial analysts, forensic accountants. They built a wall of evidence so thick that even Victoria's skill couldn't tear it down. On the final day, the jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the courtroom was packed. Hannah sat in the front row between Emily and Margaret Kemper. Hale and Reyes stood against the back wall. Judge Santos read the verdict. On the charge of murder conspiracy in the death of Sarah Kemper, guilty. Margaret's hand found Hannah's, squeezed. On the charge of murder conspiracy in the death of Miguel Ortega, guilty. One by one, down the list. 7 counts, 7 guilty verdicts. When it was over, Preston sat motionless. No emotion, no reaction. Just a man who'd finally run out of moves. Judge Santos set sentencing for 2 weeks later. Preston was remanded without bail. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Hannah pushed through them without speaking. She didn't have words, didn't have anything left except the bone-deep relief that it was finally over. Margaret caught up to her in the parking lot. Thank you. For everything. For Sarah. Hannah hugged her. They both cried. 2 weeks later, Preston was sentenced to 7 consecutive life terms without possibility of parole. Bellamy got 35 years. Dalton got 25. Cross, when his trial finally happened 4 months later, got the death penalty. Finch was disbarred and sentenced to 10 years for obstruction of justice. The court clerk got 5. Senator Callaway resigned and was indicted on federal charges. Assistant U.S. Attorney Brennan, the corrupt one, not the judge, got 18 years. By the time the dust settled, 43 people had been convicted. The network was destroyed. The machine was broken. Hannah watched it all from a distance. She gave interviews when she had to, testified when called, but mostly she stayed quiet, let the work speak for itself. 6 months after Preston's sentencing, Mercy Ridge General held a ceremony. They renamed the East Wing after the 7 victims, plaques with their names and photos. A memorial garden with benches overlooking the river. Hannah stood at the dedication with the families. Emily gave a speech about courage and sacrifice. A local politician talked about reform and accountability. Then Margaret asked Hannah to say something. Hannah stepped to the microphone, looked out at the crowd, nurses, doctors, patients, families, reporters. I'm not good at speeches, she started. I'm better at stitching wounds and stopping bleeding. But I learned something over the past year. I learned that silence is a choice. And when we stay silent in the face of corruption, in the face of cruelty, we become part of the problem. She paused, looked at the plaques behind her. Sarah, Miguel, Claire, James, Natalie, David, Lisa, they didn't stay silent. They asked questions. They demanded accountability. And they paid for it with their lives. But because they spoke up, because they refused to accept that this was just how things worked, we were able to expose a system that had been broken for years. They started something. We just finished it. She stepped back from the microphone. The crowd applauded. But Hannah wasn't listening. She was looking at the river, thinking about Sarah's car at the bottom, thinking about how close they'd come to never finding the truth. After the ceremony, Hale found her. You heading back to the hospital? Yeah, they offered me a position. Director of Patient Advocacy. I help people navigate the system. Make sure their complaints are heard. Make sure nobody else disappears. Hale nodded. Good. You'll be good at that. What about you? Heading back to D.C., new assignment. More corruption, different city. You ever get tired of it? Every day. But somebody's got to do it. He held out his hand. Hannah shook it. You did good work, Carter. Don't let anyone tell you different. Same to you. He left. Hannah stood there for another minute, then walked back inside the hospital. Emily met her at the nurses' station. Director Carter, still sounds weird. It is weird. You going to wear a suit now? Have an office with a door? I have an office, but I'm keeping scrubs in the closet, just in case. Emily smiled. Good. We need you down here sometimes. Remind people what this job's supposed to look like. Hannah checked the board. 3 patients in the ER. 1 heart attack. 1 car accident. 1 assault victim who wouldn't say who hit her. I'll take the assault victim, Hannah said. Emily handed her the chart. Room 4. Hannah walked down the familiar hallway to room 4. Inside, a woman sat on the exam table, face bruised, arm in a sling. She looked up when Hannah entered, scared, defiant, waiting to be judged. Hannah pulled up a chair. I'm Hannah. I'm here to help. I'm fine. You're not. And that's okay. But I need you to let me help you. The woman's defenses cracked. He'll kill me if I talk. Then we make sure he can't. Hannah pulled out her phone, pulled up a number. I know people, good people, people who can keep you safe while we figure this out. But you have to trust me. The woman stared at her. Then slowly she nodded. Hannah made the call. Then she started treating the injuries, asking questions, documenting everything, building a case, making sure this woman didn't disappear into the cracks. Because that's what Hannah did now. She found the people the system overlooked, the ones everyone else ignored, and she made sure they were seen. It wasn't easy. Some days she failed. Some days people refused help. Some days the system fought back and she had to fight harder. But she showed up anyway, every day, because she'd learned something in that holding cell, sitting with women who'd given up hope. Silence wasn't safety. It was surrender. And Hannah Carter didn't surrender. 18 months after the trials ended, Hannah was sitting in her office when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her. Hannah Carter? A young woman's voice. Nervous. Yes. My name's Jessica Rivera. I'm a nurse at County General, and I think something's happening here. Something bad. People are getting sick, equipment's failing, and when I ask questions, I get told to mind my business. But I can't. Because people are dying, and I think someone's doing it on purpose. Hannah grabbed a pen. Tell me everything. Jessica talked for 20 minutes. Hannah took notes, asked questions. By the end, she had enough to make a call. She dialed Hale's number. He answered on the second ring. Carter, long time. I need a favor. I think we've got another one. Hale sighed. Where? County General. Nurse named Jessica Rivera. Says people are dying under suspicious circumstances. Hospital's covering it up. You want to go undercover again? Hannah looked out her window at the city. Lights flickering in the dark. People living their lives, unaware of the corruption bubbling underneath. No, she said. I want to train someone else to do it. Teach them what I learned. Build a network of people who know how to spot this stuff and stop it before it gets this bad. That's ambitious. That's necessary. Hale was quiet for a moment. Then, all right, let me make some calls. We'll set up a meeting. See if we can make this work. Hannah hung up and looked at the photo on her desk. 7 faces. Sarah, Miguel, Claire, James, Natalie, David, Lisa. They hadn't died for nothing. They died trying to change a broken system. Now it was Hannah's job to make sure the system stayed fixed. She stood, grabbed her jacket, and walked out into the hospital. Nurses nodded as she passed. Patients looked up from their beds. A young resident stopped her in the hallway. Director Carter, can I ask you something? Sure. How do you do it? How do you keep fighting when the system's so broken? Hannah thought about it. Thought about the holding cell and the humiliation and the months of fear. Thought about Margaret Kemper's hand in hers. Thought about Jessica Rivera, scared but calling anyway. You don't fight the whole system at once, Hannah said. You fight one battle at a time. You save one person, help one family, expose one lie. And you keep doing it until the battles add up to something bigger, until enough people stand up that the system has no choice but to change. The resident nodded. And if it doesn't change? Then you keep fighting anyway, because silence isn't an option, not when lives are at stake. Hannah walked away, back to her office, back to the work. There would always be another Preston, another Bellamy, another machine grinding people down, but there would also always be people like Sarah Kemper, like Jessica Rivera, like the woman in room 4 who'd finally decided to trust someone, people who refused to stay quiet. And as long as they kept speaking up, Hannah would be there to make sure they were heard, because that's what justice looked like. Not one big victory, but 1,000 small ones. Every day, every case, every person who decided that enough was enough. The city lights glittered outside her window. Riverside, still standing, still breathing, still broken in places, but healing. Hannah sat down at her desk and opened Jessica Rivera's file. Time to get back to work.